In the silent sands of ancient Egypt, beneath the towering cliffs of Luxor's West Bank, a secret lay buried for millennia. It was not a pharaoh's tomb, not a pyramid, but something just as revealing, the final resting places of three men who were not kings, but were mighty in their time. In 2025, archaeologists announced the discovery of three new tombs at Dra Abu el-Naga, each belonging to a different official of the new kingdom. Their names carved in stone, their titles preserved, their lives and afterlives waiting to be read. Today we will walk their halls, open their shafts, and ask a question. What do these tombs tell us about power, death, and survival in ancient Egypt? If you could choose one of these tomb owners to explore in the afterlife, which would you pick and why? Let's begin. The necropolis known as Dra Abu el-Naga sits on the west bank of the Nile opposite the modern city of Luxor. For thousands of years, this area served as a cemetery for Theban high officials, priests, and nobles. The New Kingdom, approx years 1550–1070 BCE, was Egypt's era of empire building. The pharaoh was a warrior, a builder, a god-king. Yet the machinery that ran the temples, the granaries, the estates, and the trade routes was managed by officials, men whose names rarely echo to us today. Until now. At Dra Abu el-Naga in 2025, a team of Egyptian archaeologists uncovered three tombs belonging to Amun-Em-Epet of the Ramesside period, Baki, a grain silo supervisor of the 18th dynasty, and a man referred to as S, a scribe, mayor of the northern oases and temple supervisor of Amun. These are not kings, but they were pillars of the empire. They chose a necropolis facing the temple of Amun at Karnak, across the Nile. Their tombs were a statement not of royal privilege, but of administrative power. Architecture, inscriptions, courtyards, shafts. Each tomb tells a story of life behind the pharaoh's facade. Continue with visuals of tomb courtyards, halls, burial shafts. Dra Abu el-Naga is arguably one of the most historically significant yet often overlooked burial grounds in all of Egypt. It lies just north of the more famous Valley of the Kings, but unlike the royal tombs, this area was reserved for the Theban elite who served the gods and the king. Its location was not accidental, it was a deliberate statement of status and piety. The necropolis is strategically placed to face the Temple of Amun at Karnak and the royal city of Thebes, modern Luxor, on the east bank. This orientation was essential. The sun rose over the living city and the great god's temple and set over the city of the dead on the west bank. The deceased official would rise each morning to watch the sun rise over the domain they once helped administer, a cosmic affirmation of their enduring power. The area holds the distinction of being the original burial site for the 17th dynasty rulers and is often cited as the place from which the New Kingdom pharaohs launched their great campaigns. To be buried here in the New Kingdom, especially during the height of its imperial power, was to align oneself physically with the origins of the empire and the divine sanction of the Theban god, Amun-Re. It was a coveted postcode in the afterlife. Dra Abu el-Naga is a dense historical layer cake. New Kingdom tombs were often cut into or over older burial grounds dating back to the Middle Kingdom. This reuse of space hints at a deep respect for the ancestral connection to the site and the continuity of the Theban elite over centuries. The fact that the 2025 discoveries were made in this specific location underscores that this was the place where the movers and shakers of the New Kingdom sought their eternal rest, confirming their non-royal but essential status. The New Kingdom, spanning the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties, was not just a period of monumental building and military conquest. It was a revolution in state administration. The scale of the empire stretching from the Euphrates in the north to the fourth cataract of the Nile in the south required a complex, interlocking web of officials. The pharaoh as CEO. While the pharaoh was the divine head, the actual running of the vast empire fell to the viziers, the high priests of Amun, and a multitude of officials like Amun, Emipet, Baki, and Es. These men were the middle management of the divine state. Their efficiency was the difference between a golden age and famine or revolt. The rise of the scribe. The role of the scribe was the foundation of this bureaucracy. To be a scribe was to be literate, a rare and powerful commodity. It meant you could record temple inventories, levy taxes, draft treaties, and manage the logistics of building a massive temple like Karnak. The fact that Es was a scribe and a mayor highlights the direct link between literacy and high political office. The pervasive power of Amun. The god Amun of Thebes became the state's patron deity during the New Kingdom. His temple complex at Karnak was the largest religious structure in the ancient world, and more importantly, a massive economic power in its own right. It owned vast tracts of land, controlled mines, employed thousands of priests and laborers, and received massive tax revenue. An official whose title linked them to the estate of Amun, like Amun Emipet, was essentially working for the biggest landlord and wealthiest institution in the ancient world. This provided immense, often inherited power. These three tombs, therefore, are not side notes to history. They are the administrative blueprints of the New Kingdom itself, providing an unparalleled view into the intricate machinery that supported the god-king pharaoh. They show us that Egypt's stability was a function of its unseen, sophisticated bureaucracy. Why do you think the lives of temple scribes and grain supervisors mattered enough to build tombs like these? What does that tell us about the society they lived in? We'll explore their titles next. First, Amun Emipet. His tomb dates to the Ramesside period, circa 1295–1186 BCE, and inscriptions show his service in the estate of Amun. Even though much of the decoration is damaged, scenes of offerings, funerary furniture bearers, and banquet reliefs survive. Second, Baki. His tomb, elegantly designed, has two courtyards and an elongated hall. His title, supervisor of the grain silo. At a time when Egypt's supply networks fed entire armies and temples, this was vital. Third, Es. Less known by name, but identified in inscriptions as a scribe, mayor of the northern oases, and supervisor of Amun's estate in the desert. He bridged the Nile Valley and the distant oases. Each tomb provides an administrative mirror, one for temple logistics, one for grain control, one for regional governance. Their positions in Dra Abu el-Naga matter. They seats of power in death, facing places of power in life. The physical architecture reinforces social standing. Courtyards, long halls, burial shafts. They weren't lavish like Pharaoh's tombs, but they were serious. They were built to last. Amun Emipet's tomb is a window into the Ramesside period, a time of immense military focus and a gradual shift of wealth and influence toward the powerful priesthoods, particularly that of Amun. The estate of Amun. His title, likely related to the stewardship or management of Amun's estate, placed him directly in the middle of Egypt's most powerful economic engine. The estate was so vast that it included mines in Sinai, agricultural land across Egypt, trading fleets, and thousands of workers. Officials like Amun Emipet were the hands and eyes that managed this colossal enterprise. They were responsible for ensuring the proper flow of offerings to the god, which meant overseeing the production and delivery of huge quantities of beer, bread, cattle, and incense. Evidence of status, the surviving reliefs, the scenes in his tomb, despite damage, reveal his high status. Banquet reliefs are critical. They depict the deceased and his family enjoying a perpetual feast in the afterlife, a direct copy of the earthly privilege they enjoyed. The presence of funerary furniture bearers suggests that his earthly possessions, stools, chests, vessels, were considered worthy of being ritually transported into the next world, a claim only the wealthy could make. The offering scenes, where he stands before the gods, show his confidence in his own piety and his ability to secure his eternal place. Ramesside style. The art from the Ramesside period often became less refined than the earlier 18th dynasty, but was characterized by a bold, often military-influenced style. Amun-Emenhet's tomb may reflect this, a focus on strong lines and clear narratives of duty and worship, a stark contrast to the sometimes more delicate personal style of the earlier Baki. Baki, the master of Egypt's lifeline. Baki's title, supervisor of the grain silo, might sound humble, but in ancient Egypt, the control of grain was the ultimate source of power, next to the pharaoh's military strength. Egypt was known as the granary of the ancient world. Grain as currency and control. Grain was not just food, it was the de facto currency of the state. It paid the workers on the royal tombs, fed the armies in Canaan, subsidized the temples, and was the primary form of taxation. An official like Baki would have overseen vast state granaries, managing complex logistics. Measurement, ensuring all harvests were correctly measured and recorded by scribes. Storage, maintaining the silos' giant mud brick structures designed to protect the grain from pests, floods, and thieves. Distribution, issuing rations and taxes, a process that required absolute precision and immense integrity, or the capacity for corruption. The 18th dynasty elite. Baki's tomb belongs to the 18th dynasty, the height of Egypt's imperial glory, e.g. the era of Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Amenhotep III. Tombs from this period are renowned for their elegant design and high-quality artistic execution. The elongated hall and two courtyards suggest a classic T-shaped or inverted T-shaped non-royal tomb, plan a standardized architectural form that visually proclaimed the deceased's integration into the Theban elite. The walls would have been decorated with vibrant scenes of daily life, hunting, farming, banquets, intended to be magically replicated for Baki's eternal enjoyment. A statement of stability. The very existence of Baki's office and his lavish tomb underscores a crucial historical point. Egypt's military and architectural success was fundamentally dependent on agricultural surplus and administrative competence. The power structure was built on the back of the grain harvest, and Baki was one of the men who held that power in his hands. The official, known only as S in the initial announcement, provides a fascinating glimpse into regional governance and the vital role of the oases. The role of the mayor, Haiti A. His title as mayor of the northern oases shows that Egypt's control extended far beyond the narrow Nile Valley. The northern oases, like Bahariya, Farafra, and Siwa, were crucial hubs for trade routes, connecting Egypt to Libya, and internal desert paths. Wine and date production, specialized agricultural goods vital for elite consumption and temple offerings. Military outposts, protecting the valley from desert incursions. The mayor was the pharaoh's direct representative, a governor with military and civil jurisdiction, wielding immense authority far from Thebes. Dual authority, scribe and supervisor. The combination of his titles scribe, mayor, and supervisor of Amun's estate in the desert is significant. It demonstrates a fusion of secular, regional, and religious power. As a scribe, he had the administrative backbone. As a mayor, he had civil power. As a supervisor for Amun, he linked the wealth generated in the remote oases directly back to the greatest temple in the land. This man was a powerful intersection of state and church power in a remote and strategic location. Geographical bridge, the northern oases were essential for the wine production of the New Kingdom. Tomb scenes often show winemaking as a high-status activity. It is highly likely that S managed the large wine-producing estates of Amun in these oases, delivering the finest vintage to the pharaoh and the god, effectively globalizing the Theban economy beyond the Nile. We'll now shift to what these tombs mean for burial practice. Ancient Egyptians believed in life after death. The tomb was a home for eternity, the body prepared, offerings made, magic spoken. For kings, the stakes were cosmic. For officials like our three men, the stakes were still high. Their tombs show typical New Kingdom burial architecture: courtyard, hall, burial shaft. Funerary scenes depict banquets, animal offerings, furniture transport, and the deceased in front of gods. These things are present in Amenemhet's tomb. Sarcophagi may be missing, but the inscriptions and reliefs remain. They connect the living world of temples and granaries to the dead world waiting beyond. Moreover, the location matters. Dra Abu el-Naga is near the temple complex of Karnak, across the river. Walking from the living city of Thebes to their tombs took you from life to death in one ritual path. But here's the twist. These tombs also hint at reuse, additions, changing functions over time, showing how even after building for eternity, life still happened around them. The anatomy of the non-royal tomb, an eternal home. The architecture of these three tombs, the courtyard, the hall, and the shaft, is the blueprint for the wealthy, non-royal Egyptian afterlife. It was a carefully designed structure intended to serve multiple critical functions for the Ka, life force, and the Bia, soul, personality of the deceased. The courtyard, public and ritual space. The courtyard was the interface between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It was an open space, often surrounded by a low wall or a mud brick structure, where the funerary rituals and annual feasts of the dead were performed. It was the public-facing area where family and friends gathered to bring offerings, chant prayers, and celebrate the memory of the deceased on religious holidays. The tomb of Baki, with its two courtyards, suggests a particularly high level of ceremony and public visibility for his eternal cult. The hall, or chapel, the cultic center. The rock-cut hall was the tomb's main chamber, the eternal chapel. Its walls were its most important feature, covered in reliefs and inscriptions. This wasn't merely decoration, it was functional magic. The painted scenes depicted the offering formula, spells and prayers to ensure the deceased received food and drink eternally. Daily life scenes, magical reproductions of Baki's successful grain harvest or S's peaceful administration, ensuring the prosperity of the Ba in the afterlife. The ritual banquet, the centerpiece relief, where the deceased and their family dine, intended to magically sustain them. At the far end was usually a niche or false door, a magical portal through which the Ka could pass to receive offerings from the living. The burial shaft, the road to Osiris. The shaft was a deep, vertical cut into the bedrock, leading down to the actual burial chamber. This chamber was sealed after the burial and was intended to be impenetrable and eternal. It was the most private, sacred space, housing the preserved body, the sarcophagus, and the funerary goods. The journey down the shaft symbolized the deceased's descent into the Duat, the underworld, to face judgment by the god Osiris. The magic of the walls, connecting the mundane to the cosmic. The content of the inscriptions and reliefs, the surviving fragments in Amenemhet's tomb, are not random selections. They are insurance policies for eternity. The function of offerings, scenes showing animal offerings, cattle, fowl, and furniture transport guaranteed that the Ka would never want for sustenance or comfort. In the Egyptian mindset, depicting an act made it real in the afterlife. The vast amounts of food required for the temple cult in life, which Amenemhet managed, were now magically guaranteed for his personal, eternal cult. The role of the funerary texts. While these non-royal tombs did not contain the full Book of Gates or Amduat like royal tombs, they were often inscribed with excerpts from the Book of the Dead. These were spells designed to help the deceased navigate the perils of the underworld, pass the trial of the weighing of the heart, and achieve the state of Ak, a blessed, transfigured spirit. The ability to quote these texts on one's tomb walls was a demonstration of both piety and wealth. The Ba and the landscape. The location of Dra Abu el-Naga directly facing Karnak relates to the movement of the Ba. The Ba was often depicted as a human-headed bird, capable of flying out of the tomb each day. From the West Bank, it could fly across the Nile to the Temple of Amun, the source of all life and sustenance, and then return to the tomb's burial chamber at night. This ritualistic commute underscores the deceased's eternal active relationship with the living city and the great god. The twist: reuse and resettlement. The observation that the tombs hint at reuse and changing functions is a powerful corrective to the myth of pristine, untouched Egyptian eternity. Tomb robbery and secondary burials. Almost every non-royal tomb was subject to tomb robbery over the millennia. In later periods, e.g., the Third Intermediate Period or Late Period, impoverished families or even priests would often reuse older, high-status tombs for secondary burials to save on the cost of cutting a new tomb. This pragmatic reuse, often with a complete disregard for the original owner's wishes, shows the constant push and pull between the wealthy few's attempts at eternal rest and the demographic pressure of later generations. The necropolis, as a living quarter. In periods of economic decline or political instability, necropolis like Dra Abu el-Naga could become squatter settlements. People would live in the courtyards and even the outer halls of the tombs. The additions and changing functions might include crude walls, fireplaces, and temporary structures built into the original courtyard, transforming a sacred eternal home into a temporary mortal one. A vivid illustration of how life literally happened around and inside death. This layering of history is a hallmark of the Theban West Bank. Titles on the walls are more than labels, they are claims to identity, power, and afterlife advantage. Amunim Ipet, Baki, and S all held roles central to Egypt's imperial machine. Example: Baki, grain silo supervisor, grain shakir, food plus tax plus trade. If the pharaoh commanded, someone like Baki delivered. S, the scribe, mayor, oversaw remote estates and brought desert zones into the control of Thebes. These inscriptions also reveal a dynamic economy and society far more complex than the pharaoh-to-peasant story. They show bureaucracy, infrastructure, and networked power. In ancient Egypt, the inscription of your name and title was the most potent act of ensuring your survival. The name was part of the self. If it was preserved, the person could exist eternally. The title was a record of your achievements and your worthiness to be in the company of the gods. Social mobility. The inscriptions found in these tombs are a testament to achieved status. Unlike some hereditary roles, many New Kingdom officials earned their titles through education, literacy, and dedicated service. They started as scribes, like S, and climbed the bureaucratic ladder. This social mobility was the engine of the empire, creating a meritocracy, at least among the elite, where talent could lead to immense wealth and an elaborate tomb. The honorific chain. Many titles were preceded by honorifics like the one praised by the king, or the beloved of Amun. These phrases were not hollow flattery. They were public, permanent declarations of their intimate relationship with the two supreme powers, the pharaoh, the earthly god, and the state god, Amun. This chain of honors demonstrated that their administrative power was divinely sanctioned and royally approved. The economic engine. Baki's granary. Baki's position as a grain supervisor was at the heart of what the historian James Henry Breasted called the triumph of administration. The Shemu harvest. Baki's most critical period was the Shemu harvest season, which occurred during the summer months when the Nile receded. He would have been responsible for tax collection, overseeing the collection of the state's portion of the harvest, often 10 to 20% of the yield, and recording every sack. Standardization, ensuring that the grain was of consistent quality and measured according to the standard car measure. The purity test, protecting the grain from being mixed with sand or being falsely reported, a process that required strict checks on his subordinate scribes. Strategic reserve. Egypt maintained vast state granaries not just for annual consumption, but as a strategic reserve against low Niles, which could devastate the following year's harvest. Baki's role, therefore, was intrinsically linked to national security and famine prevention. A corrupt or incompetent grain supervisor could trigger widespread starvation or rebellion, hence the need for such a powerful and trusted official to oversee the process. The imperial reach. Es and the northern oases. The geographical focus of Es gives us a rare glimpse of how the Egyptian administration projected power into the desert hinterlands. The oasis economy. The northern oases were essential for the empire's luxury and strategic needs. The oases were not just producers, they were crucial for military defense against the Libu tribes to the west. Es would have acted as a military governor, tax collector, and judicial magistrate all rolled into one. His dual role as supervisor of Amun's estate in the desert indicates the massive land holdings of the Karnak temple complex extended even to these distant, isolated but valuable territories. Infrastructure and logistics. Administering the oases required incredible logistical skill. It meant caravan management, protecting and supplying the caravan routes that link the oases to the Nile Valley. These caravans transported wine, dates, salt, and occasionally even gold or turquoise from distant mines. Water management, overseeing the maintenance of the Foggara, underground water channels, and wells that made oasis agriculture possible. Es was the man who ensured that the wealth of the desert flowed smoothly to the heart of the empire in Thebes. These three men represent the three pillars of New Kingdom non-royal power: religious wealth, Amun-Epet, economic stability, Baki, and regional control, Es. Their tombs are the bureaucratic equivalent of a modern CV, a detailed, permanent record of an achieved life. Which of these roles did you find most surprising? Temple estate manager, grain silo supervisor, or desert mayor? Why? What this discovery changes about Egypt. For decades, the story of Egypt's new kingdom has been told through pharaohs, pyramids, and temples. But these finds add a third dimension: the administrative elite, the men who kept the empire moving. These tombs show that even non-royal elites got tombs near the king's realm. They built for eternity. They were part of the narrative. The architecture and inscriptions remind us that Egypt's greatness wasn't just building pyramids. It was managing grain, running temples, governing deserts. It also matters for tourism and cultural heritage. Egypt's ministry said it's a scientific milestone and will draw global attention, redefining the new kingdom from pharaohs to power brokers. The discovery of the tombs of Amun-Epet, Baki, and Es is a profound moment for Egyptology, pushing scholars away from a purely pharaonic focus and into the complexities of elite governance. The hidden history of the new kingdom. Textbooks often highlight the reigns of great kings like Tutankhamun, Thutmose III, and Ramesses II. But this discovery highlights the continuity of the state underneath the dynastic changes. Baki, 18th dynasty, and Amun-Epet, Ramesside period, served dynasties separated by over 150 years, yet their tombs share the same powerful location and the same underlying purpose: to affirm their service to Amun and the state. They represent the stability of the bureaucracy that outlived the kings. Power sharing and interdependence. The tombs demonstrate the complex interdependence between the royal house and the non-royal elite. The pharaoh needed Baki to feed the armies that conquered Nubia. He needed Es to secure the strategic oases. He needed Amun-Epet to manage the temple's vast wealth, which in turn funded his building projects. The tombs are a public acknowledgement of this relationship, demonstrating the pharaoh's willingness to grant his most trusted servants a permanent, prestigious place in the eternal city. Challenging the pyramid scheme. The Egyptian social structure is often represented as a strict pyramid with the pharaoh on top and the peasants at the bottom. These tombs reveal a more nuanced, dynamic middle layer, a powerful official class that was large, wealthy, and politically astute. Their lives were not focused on building the pharaoh's tomb, but on securing their own eternal legacy, a fact visible in the scale and location of their elaborate rock-cut chapels. The importance of the discovery, cited by Egypt's ministry, rests on the scientific data these undisturbed, or recently cleared, tombs provide. Chronological anchor points. Tombs of officials often contain objects, pottery, funerary stelae, or papyri, that can be precisely dated to specific periods within a dynasty. For instance, Baki's 18th dynasty tomb provides new, high-quality reference material for the art, writing, and burial practices of his specific era, helping Egyptologists refine their dating methods for other, less well-preserved sites. Socio-economic documentation. The administrative titles and the detailed depictions of daily life, agricultural work, offerings, banquets, inscribed on the walls are invaluable primary sources. They function as archaeological and textual records of the economy, the tax system, the religious hierarchy, and even the clothing and customs of the New Kingdom elite. They fill in the narrative gaps left by the often generalizing royal inscriptions. Preservation and conservation. The very act of a new discovery allows archaeologists to use modern conservation science, 3D scanning, non-invasive pigment analysis, and advanced mapping to record the tombs with a level of detail impossible in earlier discoveries. This ensures that the fragility of these rock-cut structures is managed for the long term, preserving them for future scholars and visitors. The discovery fundamentally shifts the story of ancient Egypt from one of singular divine power to one of a sophisticated, networked imperial state driven by the competence and ambition of its non-royal administrative class. Now we'll look at the architecture and what it tells us about craft and continuity. The tombs differ from royal ones, but they contain elements of style. Courtyards open to the sky, halls lined with reliefs, burial shafts descending into rock. Amenemhotep's tomb shows a hall ending in a niche. Baki's has a corridor-style courtyard and unfinished chapel. The unfinished nature reveals economy, reuse, and shifting priorities. Detail of paint traces, relief fragments, the textures of rock-cut tombs versus mud brick chapels, the shift from royal to semi-royal styles. Because these men weren't kings, their tombs tell us how prestige trickled down and how local power looked in stone. The anatomy of prestige, rock-cut versus royal. The tombs of Dra Abu el-Naga are classic examples of rock-cut tombs, characteristic of the Theban West Bank necropolis for high officials. This architectural style was a deliberate choice that communicated status without overstepping the bounds of royal privilege. The rock-cut tradition, cutting a tomb into the sheer limestone cliffs, required immense labor and engineering skill. It was an expensive and difficult undertaking, far more permanent than a simple mud brick structure. The permanence of the rock signified the desired eternity of the deceased. The architecture mimicked royal tombs in its function, protecting the body, receiving offerings, but differed in its scale and form, no long axial corridor of the Valley of the Kings. The mud brick chapel. Often the rock-cut tomb was fronted by a mud brick chapel in the courtyard. This was a less durable above-ground structure where the family gathered for festivals and where priests might perform daily rituals. The contrast between the permanent, rock-cut eternal chamber and the more accessible, perishable mud brick ritual structure is a key feature of non-royal tombs, reflecting the dual need for both eternal preservation and active, living worship. Niches and false doors. Amenemhotep's hall ending in a niche is highly significant. This niche almost certainly housed a statue of the deceased, or a stele, bearing his image and the offering formula. The statue was an alternate abode for the Ka, allowing it to observe the offerings and the ritual performances of his descendants. The niche or false door was the magical gateway, often highly decorated, through which the Ka and Ba could transition between the burial chamber and the offering chapel. The unfinished masterpiece, the story of constraint. The mention of Baki's tomb having an unfinished chapel is one of the most revealing details for understanding the realities of ancient Egyptian society. The New Kingdom elite often planned for eternity, but mortal constraints frequently intervened. Death's early arrival. The most common reason for an unfinished tomb was the premature death of the owner. Tombs were often begun early in an official's career when they had the funds and influence to command royal workmen. If Baki died unexpectedly, work would cease immediately, leaving the final details of carving or painting incomplete. Economic constraint and political favor. The ability to secure the best craftsmen, the highest quality stone, and the brightest pigments depended entirely on one's position in the bureaucracy and the pharaoh's favor. An unfinished tomb could also signal a loss of status, a political falling out, or a sudden change in royal patronage. The funds and skilled labor were diverted elsewhere. The tomb, therefore, acts as a social barometer, recording not just the official's life, but the political and economic climate at the moment of his passing.
Artistic style and trickle-down prestige. The art in these tombs is a reflection of trickle-down royal style. The artists working for Amenemhotep and Baki were often trained in the royal workshops and adapted the grand, idealizing style of the pharaohs, perfect proportions, youthful energy, for the non-royal elite. This allowed the official to visually assert his participation in the pharaoh's cosmic order. However, the themes of the non-royal tombs focused more on private concerns, family, feasting, and the success of their profession, whereas royal tombs focused on the pharaoh's cosmic journey with the sun god. The tombs, in their finished and unfinished parts, are a physical record of the lives, wealth, and limitations of the new kingdom's powerful middle class. Next chapter, the bigger implications for history. This discovery touches on broader themes: knowledge generation, visibility of non-royal elites, urban-rural networks in ancient Egypt. It invites us to ask, how many other tombs lie beneath visible ruins? How many stories of power remain untold? It also shifts our myth of Egypt, not just pharaohs and pyramids, but state, bureaucracy, network, the networked state, a new model for ancient power. The most profound implication of these three tombs is their collective ability to illuminate the networked nature of the New Kingdom state. They force us to view Egypt not as a series of isolated temples and fields, but as a vast, interconnected administrative machine. The hub and spokes model. Thebes was the hub, the religious and administrative capital. Officials like Baki, grain control, and Amenemhotep, temple logistics, managed the core processes. Officials like desert mayor, managed the spokes, the outlying territories, trade routes, and strategic resources. The fact that all three were buried together at Dra Abu el-Naga shows that this entire administrative apparatus was psychologically centered on Thebes and the cult of Amun. Urban-rural interdependence, and Baki, particularly highlight the crucial connection between the urban center and the rural desert resource base. The lavish tomb and lifestyle of in the capital were directly funded by the agricultural production and taxes levied in the distant oases. Baki's career depended entirely on the productivity of the farmers in the Nile Valley. This proves that Thebes's prosperity was an extractive one, relying on the efficient and sometimes harsh collection of resources from the peripheral regions by trusted officials. The problem of knowledge generation. The continuous stream of discoveries like these three tombs forces a reckoning with how much of ancient Egypt's history remains buried and unknown. The uncounted dead. Egyptologists estimate that only a fraction of the total necropolis on the Theban West Bank has been systematically excavated. The Dra Abu el-Naga finds are a powerful reminder that thousands of other tombs belonging to priests, artisans, soldiers, and bureaucrats of varying status likely lie hidden beneath the sand, under later settlements, or unrecorded in previous, less systematic digs. Each new tomb is a potential library of textual and artistic information. The importance of non-royal papyri. While the tombs themselves offer static inscriptions, many high-status burials would have included papyri letters, administrative records, legal documents, and literary works. If intact papyri were found in these tombs, they would be an incomparable source of information about the daily operation of the grain silos, the specific challenges of governing the oases, or the internal hierarchy of the estate of Amun. They would provide first-person narratives to complement the official stone inscriptions. Archaeology versus history. Discoveries like this challenge the traditional split between archaeology, the study of physical remains, and history, the study of past. The titles and scenes in the tombs are the texts that interpret the physical architecture, demonstrating how archaeological finds directly rewrite historical understanding by giving faces and specific job descriptions to the names on ancient administrative roles. The story of Egypt is moving away from the solitary image of the pharaoh and towards a more realistic portrait of a complex, mature civilization held together by a dedicated, wealthy, and powerful professional class. Do you think discoveries like these change the way history is taught? Should we focus more on non-royal elites rather than kings? Final chapter ahead. Why you should care. Why you should care, and modern relevance. These tombs aren't just old, they matter. They give us data on the middle layer of ancient societies. For us today, they reflect issues of governance, resource control, and urban power. If a grain silo supervisor had his tomb etched in stone, what does it say about food security, labor, and control? If a desert mayor had a tomb near the great god's temple, what does that tell us about globalization in the ancient world? Show modern comparison. Food supply chains today, desert governance, hidden elites in modern cities. Next, how this shifts our viewing of Egypt for tourists, scholars, and wonder-seekers. The enduring relevance of the ancient bureaucrats. The lives of Amenemhotep, Baki, and S offer surprisingly modern parallels that resonate with contemporary global issues. Food security and supply chains. Baki's tomb is a monument to the eternal problem of food security. Today, global supply chains, modern silos, and future commodity markets manage the world's grain, but the underlying challenge remains identical: how to efficiently measure, store, protect, and distribute a vital, life-sustaining commodity across a vast population. The existence of Baki's powerful office highlights that the ancient Egyptian state, like modern states, understood that control of food equals control of the people. Governance of remote resources. The role of S as the desert mayor speaks directly to modern issues of resource management and regional autonomy. Whether it's the governance of desert oil fields, remote mining operations, or strategic waterways, the central government must rely on trusted, high-powered local administrators to enforce its will. S bridged the vast distance between Thebes and the oasis. Today, this is the function of diplomats, regional governors, and international organization heads, the modern equivalents of the desert mayor, ensuring the resources of the periphery serve the power of the core. The hidden elite. The three tombs remind us that real power is often decentralized and quietly administrative. In any society, ancient or modern, the vast, often unseen infrastructure of governance, the civil service, the corporate logistics heads, the regional political operators, is what truly keeps the lights on and the economy running. The golden civilizations were built on the backs of these efficient, ambitious officials, not just the spectacular exploits of the kings. They are the historical equivalent of today's deep state, but with their names proudly carved in stone. A shift in perspective for tourism and scholarship. The discovery has practical implications for how we view and engage with Egyptian heritage. Beyond the Pharaoh's tour, for tourists, these finds enrich the West Bank experience. They provide a human, relatable scale to the colossal history. Visitors can now walk into a tomb and contemplate the life of a man, not a god king, who had to worry about tax returns, inventory lists, and securing his family's legacy. This shift from the purely cosmic to the relatable professional life of the elite offers a more nuanced and personal connection to the past. A call for interdisciplinary research. For scholars, the finds mandate an increased focus on interdisciplinary studies. To fully understand Baki, a scholar needs to combine archaeological methods with administrative history, economic analysis of ancient grain production, and religious studies of the afterlife cult. These tombs are complex data points that require a holistic approach to history. The tombs of Amenemhotep, Baki, and S prove that the eternal questions of power, resource allocation, and achieving lasting legacy have been driving forces for thousands of years, making these ancient officials our direct, professional ancestors. The sands of Luxor gave up three new voices: a steward, a grain master, and a desert mayor. Not kings, but part of the empire. Their tombs remind us, history belongs to more than pharaohs, it belongs to those who powered the system. If one discovery can change a chapter, imagine what still lies beneath the earth. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into ancient power meaningful, please like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into lost worlds. Drop your comment below. Which New Kingdom tomb would you explore first, and what would you hope to find inside? Until next time, keep exploring the shadows of civilization. Would you like me to focus on another aspect of the New Kingdom's non-royal elite, such as the Shabti figures or the specific artists who decorated the tombs?